might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked. Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GBNews.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Every Friday and Sunday night from 9, it's Mark Dolan Tonight.
We're on the same page again. There's something good happening.
Let Ian finish. Don't be such a cranky.
That mini budget was the tip of the iceberg.
And on Saturday, my show just got bigger. From 8, it's Mark Dolan's Saturday Night In.
You can't govern a country if you can't speak. Stop talking.
My God, we reached the end. I've never been early in my life. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Good evening, this is the latest from the GB Newsroom. England have reached the last 16 of the World Cup after beating Wales. These were the scenes of ecstatic England fans cheering at a fan zone in Manchester as goals from Marcus Rashford and Phil Foden gave England the victory. It means Wales are now out of the tournament and England face Senegal in the knockout rounds. Our reporter Paul Hawkins spoke to fans from both teams after the game.
I'm really excited because England scored like 3 goals and I'm really happy because I want them to get into the final and win.
Yeah, very flat performance today, given we had to win the game. It made the atmosphere for me a bit flat and disappointed, but very proud of the boys.
It looks like it should be coming home. Yeah. The performance will improve second round, hopefully, and then let's see what happens.
A man has been arrested in Gloucestershire in connection with the deaths of at least 27 people who drowned in the English Channel in a dinghy last year. 32-year-old Harem Ahmed Abu Bakr is accused of being a member of a gang behind the crossing. He'll appear at Westminster's Magistrates' Court tomorrow. 2 people survived, while 4 have still not been found. An error at a lab which saw thousands of positive COVID cases reported as negative could have led to the deaths of 20 people. Investigators at the UK Health Security Agency say the mistake at the Wolverhampton lab meant nearly 40,000 PCR tests were wrongly reported between September and October last year. Researchers also estimated almost 700 additional hospital admissions that may not otherwise have occurred. Bosses at the UK HSA say they fully accept the findings and recommendations made in the report. China's ambassador to the UK has been summoned to the Foreign Office over a diplomatic row following the arrest and alleged beating of a BBC journalist covering COVID protests. A heavy police presence has been reported in several cities in China to deter further protests after unrest over the weekend. Earlier today, the Foreign Office Minister answered an urgent question on the matter. He says the UK government is demanding a full and thorough explanation over the arrest of Ed Lawrence. TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Now it's over to headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Simon Evans. I'm joined tonight by two headliners of headliners, Leo Kearse and Diane Spencer, back after a short break from from my rulings. I mean, I imagine you've been.
Do you consider this a ruling?
Yes.
Is that how you see yourself? Ruling over us?
Anyway, we've got a lot of news to get through this evening. Fascinating, frustrating and fun. But first, let's peek at the papers. We start with Wednesday's Daily Mail. They're leading with the Christmas turkey shortage fear. And, of course, the football results. We have the Telegraph with ambulance staff to hold first strike for 30 years. And a familiar image there from Qatar again. The Eye leads with UK Christians in minority for the first time since the Dark Ages, which is an interesting way of spinning it. Certainly, The Guardian have drug success, heralds new era of progress in Alzheimer's research, and census puts church role in the spotlight. The Mirror have chooses to go with Bish, Rash, Bosh. Yeah, I'm not quite convinced by that. The Times leads with dementia drug slows decline, and Rashford fires England into second round. And finally, the Daily Star has The Hangover. Thousands left feeling a delicate, woozy Wednesday as England heroes cruise to 3-0 win. Well, those are the front pages. Let's take a look at them in some detail. So let's begin with the leading story from Wednesday's Guardian, Leo.
Yeah, it's about this Alzheimer's drugs. They've had clinical trials of a drug called lecanemab, which I think
stops you turning into a werewolf.
It sounds like they've written it down backwards.
Yeah.
And I think if you can say it, then that is proof that you don't have Alzheimer's. So I might have Alzheimer's, but they've done clinical trials. This slows the decline in early stages of Alzheimer's.
Yep.
And that's incredibly positive and will make them loads of money because people who've got Alzheimer's are older who tend to, they've accumulated wealth, so now they can get some of that off. It's like what the Tory tax plan should be.
So cynical.
Well, I think they will get it on. They will get it in this country on prescription.
Oh, so I'm going to be paying for that as well. Oh, I'm just disgusted.
But on the other hand, your parents won't won't fail to recognise your face and cause existential despair every time you visit.
No, honestly, it'd be fine if they did, and it's probably a bit late for them anyway. The other story on this is a bit more, a bit beefier. It's been relegated to a small section because it's The Guardian. They don't want anybody to know about this. But the census results are trickling out. They were done in 2021, and they show that England and Wales are now minority Christian countries. So the amount of people calling themselves Christians has fallen from 59.3% to 46.2%, so less than half now. And the other big whammy is that white British people are now a minority in lots of parts of the country. So in London and Birmingham, white British people are now a minority, which, I mean, is good news in some ways because we're going to be able to get in some adverts now. But it really is startling. Apparently 37% of people in London are white British.
White British,
which, considering it's the capital
I think it was a minority even at the last census, 2011. We were in I'd left by then. Perhaps I'd tilted the balance. Come down to Brighton. But yes, it's quite stark, and I think Manchester as well now, or certainly there is a third city, which is...
Leicester and Birmingham.
Yeah. So you've got the Independent, Diane, and that has actually led, the Eye, I should say, which has led with the census story, but they're focusing on the Christianity aspect of it.
Yeah, they are, because I guess what is interesting is that Christianity has been the dominant religion in the UK since the year 597. I mean, before that, we were doing quite well with Stonehenge, and we kind of had some lovely Viking gods and a whole plethora of paganism. But then being Christian has become, they say, being a definition of being English. But I think that people now, because obviously there's been a lot of scandal in the church, and obviously science has come along a long way, I think that you can still be a sort of a divine person, you can still be a good person, but you don't have to necessarily equate yourself with Christianity per se. So do I think that this is a bad thing? Not necessarily. I mean, what do you think, Leo?
I'll tell you what I think right now. Gonna tell you, no, because Christianity. All right, I'm not a Christian, but I think Christian countries, the Christian culture, has given rise to just Western liberal democracy and the sort of themes of equality and tolerance. Which I don't really agree with, but those are positive attributes for a culture.
Universality of the value of human life.
Exactly,
that was the key, wasn't it? I know Chesterton, who is a very interesting thinker on these things, says that if you do away with Christianity, you better have some other plausible explanation for why every human life is equally valuable, because science won't provide you with one.
Well, by 2050, Islam is going to be the biggest religion in the UK. So, and we can see, Islamic countries tend not to have the same sort of universal themes of equality, every human life being equal and sacred, and tolerance of people's lifestyles.
Do you think it will be a dominant religion, though? Is that not also becoming denatured by materialism? I mean, essentially, materialism, shopping is the new religion, right?
Well, what
it's not Islam; it is utter materialism. It's nihilism.
That's not working in Saudi Arabia. Show me in Saudi Arabia or Iran where materialism has removed the power of
You have to show a previously Christian country into which significant Islamic immigration has actually tilted it towards an Islamic culture. I don't think we'll find one of those.
Why are we running that experiment anyway? I mean, why would you mess with Western liberal democracy?
I agree with you, but I agree that it's a dangerous experiment. But I think the presumption is that shopping, materialism, consumerism, feminism, of the availability of an education to men and women on an equal footing, which is not popular in Islamic countries, will gradually denature the traditionalism, the patriarchy, the stay-at-home, get pregnant.
And we just go like this. Let's, sorry, I didn't mean to spit on you there.
That's all right, lovely.
But in 50 years' time, I'll be allowed to.
Sharia law.
Yeah.
So the thing that does bother me slightly is the extremists, because I don't know if you remember this, but in 2013 and 2014, there was a group called the Sharia Project, I think they were, and they were vigilantes who were literally patrolling sections of East London, trying to enforce Islamic law on people in East London. And let me just underline right now, the Muslim East London community said we do not appreciate this, and that is the only thing that would concern me.
OK, registered. Wednesday's Daily Mail, Leo, have they got anything on this story? I can't imagine it's completely passed them by.
The Daily Mail don't have it on the front cover. They probably had it on yesterday. I should imagine they got an advanced copy of the census, but yeah, instead they're running with the big threat to the nation from them is apparently we're running out of turkeys. Turkey, that being the bird rather than the country.
Yeah.
So there's this avian flu that's been tearing through Christmas turkey, the Christmas turkey population, particularly free-range ones. So if you're middle class and you want a free-range turkey that's led a good life, you're going to be in trouble. And yeah, it's halved the amount available.
So we'll be importing turkeys from other countries.
Yeah, but is this one of those typical sort of the shops are telling us that we're running out because they want us to buy it all? Is there a genuine shortage? Like, there has been this genuine problem with bird flu, but is it actually affecting the turkeys? And besides, do you still have turkey? Like, I prefer, my favourite Christmas meal is a beef Wellington.
Well, that's useful to know. My wife does insist on a turkey, and I always get a bit annoyed because, I know we all laugh about, the cold leftovers in the fridge, but my goodness, there is an awful lot of turkey to get through as a rule. But I don't know, it feels like the plot to On Her Majesty's Secret Service to me.
Well, you think they're scraping the barrel so far, we're like, James Bond's got to deal with turkey shortages, like Blofeld is eating them all.
I'm quite convinced that was all about some young beauties who were hypnotised and then released into the East Anglian turkey farms. I can't remember exactly how it turned out.
Okay, you might be needing lecanemab or whatever that thing's called. But I just can't believe avian flu's not called chickenpox. That would just make sense to me.
Very good, yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, this might be something that can be fixed. The previous story and this story might get together and fix each other because, if Islam becomes the biggest religion, we won't need so many turkeys.
No, that's true. That will be another problem that will solve itself. Everything does in the end. And also, they've got half their front page with the England victory and a couple of traditional, absolutely typical England fans on the front page there. Young, blonde, perfect teeth, mascara. And Marcus Rashford with his 2 goals. That is also covered on the Mirror, Diane.
Yeah, bish, rash, bosh. So it's very exciting. And my family WhatsApp was blowing up during the match. It was absolutely stupendous. I had live commentary from my mother and I had stats from my sister.
Did you actually watch it?
Well, I couldn't. I was here.
Yeah.
I was reading this.
There's
so they were like, it was like radio. They were filling me in on the way. And it was great because when Rashford scored the goal, it was fabulous because my sister straightened with the stats. Wales's probability of winning has dropped to 1%.
I saw at one point it went down to 0.1%. I thought it might be worth putting a tenner on at this point. You know, that would be Christmas sorted, wouldn't it? But no.
The problem is after a certain period of time, the text messages from my family stopped because that's usually the time we used to go watch the Yeovil Town Football Club play, and we would go watch them like every Saturday. And that was usually the time when like Dad would be like, right, get in the car, we want to beat the rush. So that the text stopped sort of with 15 minutes to go.
I've got to say though, I didn't see this match. I saw some of Wales. I mean, it's their first appearance in nearly 60 years, you know, so fair enough, they haven't had much, but it's been a bit of an anticlimax, hasn't it, one way or another. And then I saw the actual figures. Jude Bellingham alone is worth more than their entire squad, the Welsh team. So, I mean, you have to sort of say they did well to even hang in there at all, didn't they?
I think we should have a UK team. So all the best Scottish players, Welsh players, Northern Irish players.
That. I mean, England and Wales, certainly, because England, I mean, Scotland is more distinct in many other...
I know where Scotland is.
I know, yeah, but it's more... I mean, legally, it's more distinct, right? They have their own legal system. England and Wales...
But it's not like you need like a legal contract to play football. It's
all I mean is there are a number of
do.
examples of England and Wales being clumped together for certain purposes. And I mean, there was a period back in the... I guess it was the 90s, wasn't it? Where you had Giggs and... I can't remember which ones were which, when it was Rush and Mark Hughes. There was a point at which they had at least 5 players who would have made the first England side, you know, and we would have been world beaters.
Scotland ever had any players like that?
Joe Jordan. Toothless Joe.
Toothless Joe? Oh, my God. Oh, that is such a
Neville
Scottish...
Southall, that was another one, the goalie. I mean, you know...
They all sound like they're from the 1930s.
Yeah. No, they were 80s and 90s players. They're a fantastic side. Scotland, you know, I do think we could have it. We could have it all, you know, with rugby as well. I mean, imagine that. Well, we do have the British Lions.
And it would also help the country stick together if we're all supporting one team.
Yeah,
that'd be lovely.
It's exactly what we need to heal. It's all for part 1. In part 2, we will dig inside the papers, talk about troubled teens, troubled Chinese, and if you're a woman, who would you prefer a strip search from, her or her? There we are.
Both,
That's
please.
the big question. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online. Across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you know, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every Friday and Sunday night from 9, it's Mark Dolan Tonight.
We're on the same page again. There's something weird happening.
Let Ian finish. Don't be such a cranky.
That mini budget was the tip of the iceberg.
And on Saturday, my show just got bigger. From 8, it's Mark Dolan's Saturday Night In.
You can't govern a country if you can't speak. Stop talking.
My God, we reached the end. I've never been early in my life. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
And it's about standards and public life. No, I'll tell you what's hypocrisy, Narendra.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin.
We believe in the UK.
No bias, no censorship.
It just doesn't make sense to me. He wasn't doing his job as Chancellor.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton Tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. Court is in session. I'm Simon Evans. This lot are still Leo Kearse and Diane Spencer. No relation. So let's open those papers up. Wednesday's Guardian. Now, it sounds like the government have been listening to GB News, possibly even to Leo. No good can come of this, Diane.
Is this about the UK minister defending the U-turn over removing harmful online content?
Absolutely. But there's a particular element to this bill that we haven't been fond of on this show. And that's the bit they're removing, I think, the legal but harmful.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they want to remove offensive content that does not constitute a criminal offence. So it comes under this banner of harmful but legal, because they don't want to include this because they fear that it will impose on free speech. And I mean, the bill is really good because it's better than having nothing. The bill is really good. You've got they're criminalising the encouragement of.
I'd rather have nothing.
You'd rather have nothing?
I'd rather have nothing.
Yeah. But this is the bit that I thought this is going to trigger Leo. Like the legal but harmful is stuff like where they glorify eating disorders, because you think about how much of that is online, where you have the incredibly overweight and the incredibly underweight both doing their own thing, where they're going, just eat what you want, everybody is beautiful, but
well, the front cover of Cosmopolitan glorifies if that's your definition of it, you know, is it healthy at any weight?
I mean, this is the problem with the bill. How do you define legal but harmful? And you know, it's harmful online content. If they're going to say anything that glorifies eating disorders, like you say, you know, somebody who's overweight, you know, that's technically harmful because it's increased hypertension, diabetes, whatever. So are they doing it? What about somebody who has extreme sports, you know, paragliding or rock climbing? That's harmful. Is that encouraging online harm? It's nonsense. I mean, the only way a website can really harm you is if it ejects the CD drive into your eye. So, you know, you can't be harmed by looking at this stuff. I understand.
The Culture Secretary, Michelle Donnellan, she has defended this change, saying that the part of the impetus for it was this poor woman, girl, Molly Russell, who was influenced by things she saw on Pinterest and so on, and ended up taking her life. And there is a suggestion that young people can be exposed to very, you know.
Yeah, so keep your children off the internet. Yeah, keep your children off the internet. Then they're not going to be seeing all this degeneracy on TikTok. Yeah. You know, they're not going to be exposed to all this, you know, grooming and stuff. And but this bill itself would have put an onus on companies. It would have made put the responsibility on companies to remove harmful content, also monitor private messages. So this would have been a huge leap forward. It would have been a Chinese-style sort
of the
scrutiny.
Companies to do it, not the government.
Yeah. So
but that's the thing. Like, you see, some of this can't be enforced, but they're trying to make it enforceable. Like, one of the parts of it is that they're trying to enforce that companies will be fined something like 10 or 20% if they knowingly are advertising to 10-year-olds when their website is for 13 and above. But it's a bit like, it's like a pub that is in everybody's room. Like, when there's one pub, you can check, but...
It was always the way with tobacco, wasn't it? I mean, in the bad old days of tobacco, the cigarette companies knew perfectly well that the time to get kids hooked is when they're about 12. You know, and they got the product to them one way or another, even though it was illegal. And I mean, and that was when you had a physical product to deal with instead of just stuff that's gushing out through the open portal of your smartphone. Yeah. But they do claim that this law will still penalise anyone who is promoting material which is intended to encourage you to take your life, because that is actually illegal, harmful and illegal.
Yeah, but that's incitement to violence, so that comes under existing laws.
That's true. Wednesday's Daily Mail next, Leo. An ungrateful mum is complaining about her 8-year-old daughter's access to free school porn.
I mean, that is the way a lot of Guardian readers would look at it. But a furious mother is hit out at the primary school for teaching her 8-year-old daughter about masturbation and wet dreams. So her daughter came home distressed, in tears, after she saw a video illustrating an erection and ejaculation. And she said her daughter was so upset about the graphic description. I mean, an 8-year-old daughter.
Illustrating
Insane.
it with a volcano and things like this, we should say, not an actual
Yeah,
depiction of it, I
great.
think.
Ruin volcanoes. Thanks.
But they used words. I mean, all right, there's a volcano, there was stuff like that, a cartoon rocket launching.
I've just
but
remembered
the words.
my best mate's daughter is taking English, history and geology as her A-levels. And I've just realised why she's doing geology.
She's going to get her rocks off.
Hey, very good.
The words in the video included horny, sexual desires, masturbation and erection. Now, if a child came into school and said, oh, my uncle or my stepdad has been saying, you know, talking about erections and masturbation, they'd phone the social services. They'd get this person investigated. Why is it OK when it's some, you know, blue-haired school teacher with a leftist agenda to groom children?
I mean, you probably know that my sentiment is on your side, but what they would say is, I suppose, that only by knowing these words, with the 8-year-old for a start, know when they had a dodgy uncle.
That's exactly what a paedophile would say. I mean, that is the paedophile's excuse right there.
Yeah. Well, I'm just demonstrating what the child should look out for.
Right.
If they hear it in the context of a classroom, does it not enable them to then, you know, recognise when inappropriate sexual activity is going on around them?
Now, this is an interesting idea, but I would say that 8 years old is still too young.
I think so.
I really do think it is. I can understand when they are a little bit older, like they're at secondary school. That is now making sense to me.
Or alternatively, when they're very young, when they're about 3, because they're surprisingly, Freud has things to say about this. I remember our son. He was bizarrely interested in the school mums when he was about 3, and then it went away again at 5. So that would be an opportunity possibly to get in there. I'm kidding, folks. But, I mean, I'm not kidding entirely. That is true. There is a weird, like a kind of foreshadowing of. But anyway, that is not an appropriate point for sex education. Let's move on to Wednesday's Times, Diane. Given the stories we've covered so far this evening, this statistic doesn't seem terribly surprising to me.
No, not at all. So we're looking at the Times. A quarter of older teens have a probable mental health disorder. Now, this is interesting because the senior clinical lecturer in child public mental health at the University of Exeter, who has worked on the report, seems to put a lot of this down to COVID, and seems to say that it's down to COVID, that these teenagers, there's been a massive rise. Like in 2017, it was 10%, but now in 2022, we're up to something like 25%, which is obviously quite a jump, and we have had a pandemic. However, I do also question how much talking about mental health has been put forward into the media, and so people are more likely to recognise when it is. I mean, when you're a teenager, I had mental health problems all the time. I don't know a single teenager that didn't, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it's true.
It's a terrible time. Your body is tearing itself apart, like especially as a girl, like things start dropping out and going sideways and you have no idea what's going on. And it's just a bit of an all-encompassing time where you're coming out into the world and you're trying to fight away from your parents because you want to be independent.
Yeah. So I suppose the question is it a good thing we're recognising it, or are we encouraging people to become obsessed with the idea that they are struggling, like that there's something wrong with them, when in reality they're just going through the kind of the weird mutations that come with the territory? It's
just life. And also there's an issue because of the amount of funding. Because obviously there's like something like 2.3 billion amount of 2.3 billion pounds that's sort of going to this, which is, don't get me wrong, I think it's important that we look after our teenagers and our young adults. No?
Not with my money.
Not with Leo's money.
Why don't we just get... What happened to parents? Anybody got like a mum and dad anymore that can actually do this stuff for free instead of me, the government having to step in and wipe everybody's bum with my money?
An uncle.
An uncle.
I want to stick up for some uncles here. I've got loads of good uncles, I just got to say.
That seems like too many uncles, to be honest.
So useful, but uncles have now been, rendered...
That's That's not fair.
Out of bounds.
Well, the other thing that could be driving this is if you get diagnosed with ADHD or various other mental disorders, which aren't real. I mean, a lot of people could be diagnosed. I could get diagnosed with ADHD.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of my friends have been diagnosed with ADHD just to get on the drugs. So you get hold of it. It's basically NHS prescription speed.
Yeah.
It's it's great. It's great if you want to get work done.
It's not quite the same as a mental illness, is it? That's
ADHD is a mental illness.
No, it's regarded as a neurological. Neuroatypicality.
Neurodiversity.
Oh my God.
Neurodivergent.
They live with that, rather. You don't try and cure that. We've got time for just one more, and we're going to go to the Times, Diane, with the trans police officers.
Oh, my word,
You've been arrested quite a lot, so I imagine you've had some experience of this.
I have not. What a shocking dip that you're casting nasturtiums on my name. So Lisa Townsend, who is part of the Surrey Constabulary, has said that it's not appropriate that trans police officers strip search women.
No.
And Lisa has made a very definite sort of case here. She said, look, if you are a recently transitioned police officer, so there is not necessarily any outward signal that you are wishing to change your sex and your gender, then don't insist on strip searching women. Now, any police officer or official who insists on strip searching somebody already raises so many alarm bells in my head.
Yeah, I understand.
But especially, I mean, if you're that worried about one of your colleagues, please could you make a report or something, or blow some whistles?
Yeah.
It is alarming. I'm sorry, I know that I can be easily labelled a TERF because I'm saying this, but at the end of the day, you have to accept men are bigger, they're a lot stronger.
Well, this is transphobic. This is very offensive to women like me.
Would you say, this is a slightly different question, but would you say the sexual orientation is an issue as well? Because a lot of trans women who born male-bodied become trans women but still maintain a sexual interest in women. So they become lesbians. It used to be a joke, didn't it? I'm a lesbian trapped in a man's body. And now that is actually the case.
Yeah.
Does that make a difference as far as you're concerned as well?
As far as I'm concerned, no.
No,
because
okay.
it's another woman.
Yeah.
And she has lived her experience. Yeah. And like,
if she were a lesbian?
The trans woman is another. Well, then why is anybody bothered about it? Just let that beautiful real woman fist you for drugs or whatever they're going to find up there, car keys, a number plate.
What on earth can you get up yourself? That's a shocking revelation.
Who would you prefer to be strip searched by, Leo?
Well, I've done some research. I've done some research on Pornhub, and I would like one at each end, please. And
I
would like a sort of elderly Belgian detective.
Oh, yes, Poirot. You see, there we go. Would you rather go with Poirot or Marple? Me,
yes.
Marple, because she's a lady.
I think everyone should have a badge, shouldn't they? Part 2 is done. In the next section, the BBC gets bashed for being racist. Yes! For being posh. Yes! And how dangerous can one of these be? We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Monday to Thursday, 10 till 12, on TV, on radio and online.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. Let's start this section with Wednesday's Express. And Leo, this chap has achieved one of your lifetime ambitions, calling Gary Lineker a racist.
I do it most days on Twitter.
Well, Gary Lineker is aware that he's been called a racist.
Oh, Simon, that hurts. So Qatar's World Cup chief, Hassan Al-Thawadi, has accused Gary Lineker of being prejudiced and racist against Qatar's football festival and said the BBC's coverage was racist. So they also had, as well as Gary Lineker being racist, they had Jurgen Klinsmann talking on the BBC about their culture when he's talking about Iran, who's a typical German.
Which included cheating, I believe. That was the dodgy bit.
Yeah.
That he said that Klinsmann said that the
Did you get my joke though?
Sorry,
I said typical German.
Oh, typical German.
That was being a bit racist, but ironically, which is
on the other hand, he's kind of on
way.
your side, isn't he? Because you came out against the Iranians and got in trouble with Victoria Coren.
That was the government.
Oh,
that was the government. So he was talking about their footballing culture. But yeah, I mean, the
you said Iranian. There was somebody's name was Iranian for ungrateful.
Yeah, that's right. Nazanin Zaghari Markle or whatever she's called. Yeah, but the BBC.
Radcliffe, not Markle.
The BBC might as well be. The BBC is very racist. I mean, if only there was another news channel you could watch that isn't racist.
Well, unfortunately, we don't have quite as much Qatar World Cup footage, unfortunately, as the BBC have access to. That's the trouble.
Yeah.
We have got Diane's family to keep us up to date via text message. What do you think? Has the BBC got a case to answer here?
They do, actually, because they did not show the opening ceremony of the Games. And I have an issue with that because you are the national broadcaster. We all have to chip into your pot. Yeah. So I want to see the opening ceremony and I can choose whether I want to watch it or not. You don't get to dictate whether I watch it or not because you're the BBC. And I'm sorry, but that's not on. They should have showed the opening ceremony.
And to be fair, I mean, if the issue is with, like, human rights abuses or whatever, they were quite happy with the 2008 Beijing Olympics, weren't they, to show all of that?
Yeah,
which is
and Russia, the Russian football or whatever it was.
Well, onto the Times now. Diane, this story seems designed with devilish ingenuity to drive a wedge between you and Leo. I couldn't possibly comment.
Wow. So, in the Times, quote, Posh Ed seeks truce in BBC accent war. So, apparently, it's there's this whole argument because Amal Rajan, who has a South London accent, and this was on The World at One, apparently, has criticised the BBC for a lack of diversity because it suggested 70% of newsreaders spoke with received pronunciation compared with 3% of the British population. Now, here's the question that they were trying to raise. You need to be understood when you talk. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily true, because sometimes I have watched people on the BBC and I've not understood a word they're saying and I've literally had to put the subtitles on.
Right. So are you saying it's not true that you do need to be understood?
I think you should be able to be understood. I hate it when I see
What you mean
somebody...
is that the BBC doesn't employ people who are capable of being understood?
Sometimes they don't.
No, right.
And sometimes they employ people and they stand there and they sort of talk. And I think, how have you got this job? Because I can't actually understand what you're saying.
And is that a regional accent usually, or do you think, just
it could be anything? It could be it could be a really thick regional accent that's so thick, and they're even dropping in slang words. You think, OK, I've lost this.
Can you name names of these presenters?
Amal Rajan.
No, I don't.
What is a South London accent?
Right.
Wow.
A bit like that.
Right.
Amal Rattan is the new host of University Challenge. He has been accused of popping up just about every... He hosts the Today programme, which is also where Ed Sturton sort of made most of his... Ed Sturton now hosts World at One. I think it's called their sort of lunchtime bulletin. He is properly sort of old-fashioned public school. But I remember this argument raging 40 years ago, my dad defending received pronunciation as being universally understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, nobody talks like that. Celia Johnson in The Brief Encounter. That's about the only person who ever actually spoke like that, you know, outside of the news. But it was clipped, consonantial, sort of... all the words were...
And listening to Radio 4 growing up in Scotland, I didn't feel alienated by the accents. And what I've noticed living in England is that a lot of English people sort of working classify their accents. They talk more like Guy Ritchie. Yeah. Guy Ritchie grew up in like a 40-bedroom mansion.
Ben Elton.
Ben Elton.
Yeah.
Jeremy Corbyn. It was known 20 years ago as Mockney. That's come and gone, but that was the term. And then there was the estuarial accent, which is Jamie Oliver, slightly different. That's where the glottal stop.
Right.
Where you don't pronounce the T in the middle of the word glottal, which is a handy, because it's got the glottal, you just sort of like gulp it. It's sort of like talking like an Essex lizard. And there have been all these variations of people attempting to conceal, their privilege and their education and so on.
But is it because you like, for example... The way that I talk, I moved around a lot when I was younger, so I don't have any particular accent. I mean, when I get drunk, you can definitely tell I spent a long time in the West Country. But apart from that, but it's just because I moved around a bit. By all rights, my accent should be from Worcester.
So we should have a sort of a bit like a Platonic system in the Republic. You identify who are going to be tomorrow's future broadcasters, and then you make up. You know, they have a sort of procession through the country. They spend 6 months in every county.
Yeah, and they need to tour around the country to wear everything down.
Yes, that might work. Let's head to Wednesday's Mail now, and it's been a long time coming, but it looks like some of Twitter's dirtiest little secrets are about to come out.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be fantastic. I can't wait. So Elon Musk, who bought Twitter recently, said Twitter would be releasing files on its own free speech suppression in a tweet. So he's referencing... I mean, there's lots of suppression of free speech, and in particular, conservative voices on Twitter, or there has been up until Elon Musk took over. But he's referencing specifically Twitter's 2020 censorship of the New York Post reporting on Hunter Biden's laptop. So this was apparently in collusion with the Democrat Party. This is really sinister stuff. Colluding with a political party before an election to suppress a valid story in an established, legitimate newspaper. So it was delisted from... It was blocked from Twitter. It was blocked from other social media as well. Delisted from them to try and swing the election, to influence an election, and that's got to be a criminal thing to do. So hopefully we're going to see some people. Actually going to jail over this, because this is something, when people talk about the election being stolen, you know, they get laughed at because they think, oh, you know, there weren't falsified votes. But it's stuff like this, you know, this legitimate story, Hunter Biden's laptop with pictures of the future president's son, and you know, smoking crack and with prostitutes and all the rest of it, and doing dodgy business deals on behalf of his father. That could really have swayed the election. There's also another issue regarding Twitter and censorship. So Apple have apparently threatened to withhold Twitter from their app store, which is really, really dodgy, considering Apple also collude with the Chinese government to stop protesters sending messages and communicating with each other. And Apple also lobbied the US government to stop legislation that would have prevented Apple using slave labour in China. So Apple aren't, you know, friends of freedom and democracy and liberalism. They are friends of authoritarian regimes, and they want to bring that to the West.
I'm surprised, I have to say, that Twitter didn't delete all those files when they knew they were being purchased by Elon Musk. Maybe there's something that stops them doing it. Maybe it's just simply illegal to
You think it'd be like the Stasi, when the Berlin Wall fell, you know, the shredders all melting down.
Exactly, like death of Stalin stuff. I don't know, how do you feel about this, Diane? Maybe slightly less enthusiastic.
No, I have been following this quite closely, and I think it's very interesting because if he does release all of this, and maybe there is a case to answer in the courts, then there are going to be a group of people who not only have been either fired or just locked out or whatever, but they may now face criminal prosecution. And at the moment, I would say that the majority possibly the majority of people who I've seen interact anyway seem to be, oh, the Twitter people, oh, we loved where we worked and all of this stuff. But this kind of collusion, because it really was a fascinating story, how this silly man, Hunter Biden, left his laptop and then it basically got passed to, like, Trump's
you could
advisors.
certainly make the case that one should not decide who's going to be the next president based on his son's, criminal activity. I mean, it certainly... But not allowing the American people to make that's an entirely... Which is what always brings them down, isn't it? It's the same with like, Clinton. He wasn't... I mean, he wasn't brought down. He saw it as presidency. But the problem wasn't that he'd had the affair, it was that he'd lied about it. It's always that question, it's always the cover-up that gets them. Well, we will see. The Telegraph now, for those of us who don't fancy masking up and ruining someone's romantic meal for two, Antifa actually orders a board game version of that sort of activity.
Oh, my gosh, this is such a great story. So a board game that encourages attacks on leftists' enemies, shelved by French retailers. So, Antifa, the game, had been on sale at FNAC retail stores for the past month. An earlier version sold out online, and it encourages, written on the front, it says, racism, sexism, nationalism. That's enough. I mean, you could mistakenly...
Ça suffit.
Ça suffit.
Contre les trines droites, à vous de jouer.
Oh, yeah, he's just all done it in French for you there. Against the far right, it's your turn to play. Okay. So, they say that it's a game to raise awareness about all dimensions of activism. So technically there should be a bit where you throw soup at a painting or you glue yourself to the floor.
Well, or you bang up to date.
Or you beat up Antifa.
Yeah.
How about you get to LARP as a fascist mob instead of a leftist mob?
Are all the players Antifa, or are some of them? So there's none of them that are like Proud Boys. That would make it a much more interesting game, wouldn't it?
You don't pick a side. So the game itself is the right-wing game, and you are always the Antifa,
trying
and you
to disrupt the right wing.
Yeah.
Even Call of Duty lets you play as the other side.
Well, here we go. Make a choice. Would you like to square one, block a university, 2, beat up a right-wing militant, 3,
let's see them try.
Attack a national rally, 4, throw a petrol bomb at the police?
I mean, to be fair, this is French Antifa. They probably are a bit tougher than the Portland guys.
Yeah.
Because they're the Soissons Wetards. They did actually smash the place up once upon a time.
But the thing with this is, fascist. I mean, there aren't really that many fascists anymore. And what we see is people with legitimate concerns.
Except
or
Ukraine.
Except, the Azov, and I'm a big supporter of the Azov battalion. Let's not pretend they don't have Nazi insignia all over them. But yeah, like legitimate concerns over immigration or whatever it is, or the size of the state or whatever, are dismissed. Or the COVID lockdowns are dismissed as fascist or dismissed as far-right extremists. We've seen this over and over again. Sadiq Khan, his go-to thing to dismiss a political opponent is to say, I'm not talking to them, they're a far-right extremist. And it's an absolute nonsense. They're not a far-right extremist, not by, historical standards.
Well, that's exactly what they're hitting Musk with, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. So it's a way to dehumanise people so to then legitimise attacks against them, which, ironically, is what a fascist would do.
And then entrench that in the form of a board game. It's an absolute straight out of the Monopoly playbook. Part 3 is in the bag. In the final section, we've got protected leaks, a macaroni and cheese court case, and find out why, if you're cabin crew, you're going to need one of these. How did they get that picture of me?
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
I think I've seen probably quite enough of Matt Hancock to last me a lifetime.
I'll also be getting to know you better, travelling to find out what you think about the politicians who are fighting for your vote.
They've got to get this country back on track.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. only on GB News, on TV, radio and online.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Welcome back to the final part of Headliners. Let us kick off with Wednesday's Daily Mail. Diane, in the wake of a woeful showing against England, this is just what the Welsh need to restore their national pride.
Yes, well, a leek has been given the same protected status as Cornish pasties, Melton Mowbray pork pies and Stilton cheese. It's been awarded, the Welsh leek has been awarded protected geographical indication status by their government. So they're saying that it's an iconic emblem of Wales. They're saying that they wear the leeks because they are lucky and they wear them at sporting events. I guess they didn't wear many tonight, which is a bit sad.
You're still allowed to grow regular leeks, right?
Oh, yes, but you may not say that they are Welsh leeks.
Can you say they're method Welsh? Like the champagne, method champenoise?
No, you'd have to come up with like a totally different name.
Prosecco leeks.
Yeah, Prosecco leek.
I mean, it doesn't. I get the Melton Mowbray thing. That's like people go, oh yeah, that's a real pork pie from Melton, and Stilton is clearly it's in the name. It comes from Stilton. It's not just a blue cheese. But leeks are just a vegetable, aren't they? I mean, that's not. People don't go, are these real Welsh leeks? I've never heard anyone.
Yeah. No, nobody cares. No. Nobody cares if the leek is Welsh. Nobody's going down in the shops and be like, oh, I can't have these. This isn't, nobody's going to sneer at me if I serve these non-Welsh leeks at my party. It's an absolute nonsense.
Are they different?
They're different. 40% of the top is the flag. It's the green. So they are
That's a leek.
Different. Yes,
it's just a leek.
Yeah, but...
You're just describing
this is
a leek.
Different. No, apparently there's 40% and other leeks are not the 40%. So this Welsh leek
what are you saying
is different.
You get more leek for your more edible part or something? Is it something?
I don't really eat leeks.
You don't know. Don't you?
Is that because there's always dirt in them?
Yeah.
There's always dirt in them.
There's always dirt.
How do you get the dirt out? You probably know about leeks.
You get your dog to lick that out. That's
I'm glad you're talking about a leek.
Simon.
And she mustn't do that. Allium's bad for dogs. Bad joke. Over to the Independent. And Leo, it sounds like at least one airline has grasped what most passengers actually want from their aircrew, and it isn't gender-neutral self-empowerment, is it?
Exactly. So Air India has outlawed grey hair, bald patches and receding hairlines for cabin crew in its updated staff guidelines. The rules also apply when staff are travelling in their own time. You can't even just get on a plane incognito and just,
Fantastic. It's like being at school. You're still a representative.
Still got to wear the uniform.
Yeah.
It's mad.
I found it quite interesting. They don't mind. They won't sack you if you get a bald patch, but they insist that you absolutely shave your head smooth.
What if the stress? What if the stress of the job makes you bald? Aren't they then vicariously liable for your bald patch that they're then punishing you for?
Well, I guess, but it's quite interesting that they regard a completely smooth bald head as being. Like what I've got would not be acceptable.
Yeah.
This is, I think, what they're talking about. This kind of like
it would cause friction going down the slide.
Yeah, that might be it.
Yeah.
When you get slapped on the head by the cat. I quite like the fact that they have some standards, though. What do you think?
It's interesting interesting because this is nothing new, actually. A lot of airlines, they always have, like, rules about BMI, especially.
BMI?
And, well, Qatari Airlines came under fire from this because they will only make their uniforms for women in certain sizes. And if you don't fit the uniform, you better stop eating until you do.
That's based.
And I don't know whether that's down to sort of fuel costs or the fact that you don't want to necessarily be sort of elbowed and budged by people as they walk down the aisle.
Well, you've got to fit down the aisle.
You have got to fit down the aisle, yes.
And also you've got to strap into the little seat with the telephone next to it.
Yeah.
I wonder if they sell more refreshments from attractive staff as well.
Nobody wants a chalk ice from a fat, bald person.
Fat, bald, greying man. Wednesday's Mirror now. And Florida woman is literally taking things too literally, Diane.
Oh, right, OK. Now, this story does have a little bit of something in it that I do like.
Okay.
So, in the Mirror, a woman sues macaroni and cheese company saying it takes longer to make than advertised.
OK.
Now, we are not in a Pepsi Harrier jump jet situation here. So the advertising says that it's ready in 3.5 minutes.
Yeah.
And her lawyer is claiming this is false and misleading because it does not include the 4 steps required to make the pasta.
Okay.
So you have to remove the lid and the sauce pouch, add water, microwave and stir it.
Right. And
now,
what does the 3.5 minutes is just the microwave?
That's literally, I'm assuming it's just the microwave time.
Yeah.
So on one hand, I think this is completely ridiculous, and she's asking for $5 million, which I think is just ridiculous.
That's straight out of Donald's Art of the Deal, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what they call anchoring.
Yeah.
It's absolutely preposterous.
I mean, she's not going to get a job in Air India, is she? If she can't wait 3.5 minutes to shovel a tub of macaroni in her face, she'd imagine she's not going to fit down that aisle.
What is the rest of it? Is opening the packet.
Yeah,
and
opening
water.
and the sauce pouch, and you have to add the water. Now, but the thing
the
that
sauce pouch.
What
I
I
think
do
that might
think
be
is
my new nickname for you.
the sauce pouch. She
Can we get HR on the phone?
there is an issue though, because this is to do with advertising the actual production, like the fact of your interaction with the product. And there is a fact that they are stating.
Yeah.
The fact is that it will take you 3.5 minutes. Now, I don't think she deserves $5 million, but do I think that the company actually are wrong? Well, yes.
They should probably have a symbol, like a little M with a lightning flash through it or something, when they put on the packet to say this is how long it will take to this is the microwave element. The rest, and then it could be understood. This is like microwave time, 3.5 minutes. Obviously, if you're fumbling with the sauce pouch for half a minute, we can't be responsible for your own.
Yes, and what if she's really bad at sauce pouches?
Yeah.
And like when you make a lemon cake, for example, if you said, "Oh, lemon cake only takes you 50 minutes," rubbish.
You've got to zest a lemon.
You've got to zest 3 lemons.
That can be a whole afternoon.
Right.
Finding the zester. Wednesday's Star and the discovery of a rare mythical being in Washington, D.C. Is it an honest politician, Leo?
No, it's a woman who's been confirmed to be her daughter's mother and uncle in a mind-blowing medical discovery. This wasn't in Norfolk or Dumfries. This was in Washington, D.C., so it's chimerism?
Chimera.
Chimerism.
Chimerism.
Yeah.
So it occurs when genes from a vanishing twin, so a twin that's sort
brother.
fertilised, almost
The twin
fossilised.
dissolves and just the DNA is sort of absorbed.
Sometimes they don't completely dissolve and you get like a weird cyst that's growing hair and teeth and stuff like that. It's absolutely...
It's kind of like a Siamese, well, we used to call a Siamese twin, that's probably not right anymore. Is it? Conjoined twin. But that would be kind of, it's like that, except the conjoined twin has almost disappeared entirely, but it's
genetics have gone into this person. So she's her daughter's mother, which you'd expect somebody to be their daughter's mother.
I read up on it off the back of this on the Wikipedia page, and it is pretty rare. But the most common source of it, maybe after the disappearing twin, is if you get a bone marrow transplant. Apparently.
Oh right.
Wow.
And the bone marrow, the DNA from the donor will sometimes then kind of get into your blood system generally.
And you have kids, and then some of their So you can actually sort of, your DNA can continue on through a bone marrow
This
transplant.
is the big question, is whether it's possible that the full hermaphrodite in nature is capable of self-fertilisation. But it's never been discovered whether a human being... But in theory, you could self-fertilise because...
I've tried.
I know, we've all tried. We all have. But you have that era, don't you?
No, I was just joking, Simon. What are you talking about?
But there is, in theory, there's some of them, sometimes they have both sets of sex organs and all this, you know, and there is the possibility, even if it were to be, or maybe you would be in vitro, you know, there would be a sort of outside and then back in again stage. Do you like the idea of that, self-fertilisation?
No. I mean, I've avoided fertilisation at all costs throughout my life.
Yeah, but
so
maybe
doing it
that's
myself
why,
would
if you
be
never
silly.
found the perfect father, turns out he was in you all along. Anyway, that's all we have time for. Thank you to my guests. It's been a pleasure discussing, you know, the ways of the world and the causes of misery. Leo will be back tomorrow. I will be back tomorrow. We'll be joined by Nick Dixon, and Diane will be at home self-fertilising.
I will not.
I'm going to start this rumour, despite the fact that you have absolutely...
Do not believe a word that man says.
I'm going to be a witness in a case now, in a tribunal.
See you tomorrow. Take care. Good night.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.